Hey players, I've talked to a lot of you over the last week or so about talking to your crush before the school year ends, so I thought it was only fitting for me to share some of my experiences with not asking out my crush before I graduated high school, and those are stories I feel like I need to share with you.
This is the Just Me. You're watching the Just Me.
Looking back at my own high school days, it wasn't all bad. I mean, I was able to get my first girlfriend, but I was also extremely friend-zoned by a girl I really liked. And somewhere across those 4 years, there were tons of girls in between that I liked and I tried to talk to but never asked out. The first girl I want to mention is a girl I knew directly from middle school. We both had went to the same high school and I thought that would be a bridge to help us connect together, right? Well, it sort of was. You see, the problem was when she entered high school, she became one of the popular girls. And since I wasn't really popular, we didn't really talk and interact as much. In fact, the only way I got closer to her was because she was heavily involved in a lot of the drama production at school and my friend hung out with a lot of those kids, so he interacted with her a lot. They had their own back and forth teasing kind of relationship, and every time I was around, I just kind of stood there and tried to throw a joke in or two. As he got closer to her, so did I. So me and her would message each other once in a while online, and trust me guys, when you say your crushes don't respond to your messages, I know exactly what that's like. And I remember one random day where me and my friends were bored and hanging out, so we decided to text her to see if she was free, and she said she was. I was all like, what? We're gonna hang out with her? This is awesome! So she invited us over to her house to just hang out there. So when we got to her house, it was me and my two guy friends and her alone. So all four of us decided to walk down the block to go get ice cream at Baskin Robbins. We took pictures together, hung out, and went back to her house to just sit around in her living room and just chat the whole night. In the end, we said goodbye and I thought I was in. Now I could definitely ask her out and go out with her and things would be great. But that's not what happened. After that hangout session, I never asked her to hang out again and I barely talked to her going forward. A big part of it was fear. I kept psyching myself out thinking she's a popular girl and she's not going to want to go out with someone like me. And then the first friend that I told you about that knew her from all the drama stuff ended up finding out that his best friend lived next door to her, and guess what? Her and that best friend started talking and they started going out. So that was a done deal for me. I missed out on my opportunity because I didn't follow up with my crush, and that was the big lesson that I learned. But speaking about this music hall in my high school where all the cool kids hung out, there was a girl there that was extremely gorgeous, but I had no courage to talk to her. That same friend also knew this girl because she was involved in a lot of the plays in school, and every single time I would go meet him at the end of the day, I would see her and just watch her as she opened up her locker, took out her stuff, and left to go home. Little note for you, if you like someone, don't sit there and stare at them as they're packing up stuff at their locker. Either go talk to them or kind of walk away because otherwise it just looks creepy. And this was my routine practically every day. After my last class, I would run downstairs to go meet with my friend and I would just sit there and stare and watch her. My friend kept telling me, dude, just go talk to her so it doesn't end up looking creepy, but I kept saying no until one day I finally had the courage to actually do it. I don't remember what kind of cheesy thing I had prepared to say, but as she was packing up her locker, I walked up to her and started talking to her. Suffice to say, the conversation was pretty normal. I asked her a question, she talked back to me, we shared a little bit of conversation, and then she went home. I told myself I finally did it. Now everything is going to work out between me and her. She'll come talk to me when she sees me, and everything will be just fine. But that's not exactly how it works. Now that I had broken the conversation barrier with her, every time she saw me in the halls, she would wave and say hi, but I would sit there misinterpreting that signal thinking, is she saying hi because she likes me? Is she saying hi because she wants me to talk to her? Or is she too nervous to talk to me? And instead of picking the option that made the most sense to me, I stayed in this cycle of overthinking until eventually her waves and smiles became smirks, and then her smirks became just walking past me and not acknowledging me at all. Another one I dropped the ball on. I do remember at the end of the school year, I got a picture with her and all of my friends, but I never acted on it, so it never really went anywhere. The third girl was someone that was in a bunch of my classes. Now, on my own, I probably never would have started talking to her because I would have been too nervous, but she started talking to me, and as time went on, I started to like her. I knew from her perspective she only saw me as a friend, but every single time she talked to me, I felt like she liked me, and that's really what mattered to me most. And while that sounds fine, it's really not, because you're actually misleading the interaction between you two. I would try every so often to make jokes every time I talked to her, and every time she laughed, I took that as a sign of genuine interest, instead of recognizing that she saw it as me just being friendly. The major problem there was that I never made my intentions clear. I was acting like a friend to her, but in my mind, I saw it as something more. There would be times where we'd both be leaving class together, and I thought as we walked down the halls, it was a sign of interest to one another, but my intentions were never clear. And I remember seeing her at my high school prom dressed up and looking gorgeous. She had went with someone that was just a friend, and I remember getting a hug from her that night, which totally fueled my head up. I think for myself, the major problem there was that I was getting gassed up on the idea of knowing an attractive girl without ever actually doing anything about it, and deep down inside, it made me feel bad. So when graduation was around the corner and I knew I would probably never see her again, I decided this was my chance. I had to ask her to hang out. So one day after class, I sheepishly walked up to her as she was packing up her locker and asked her, "Hey, we should hang out sometime during the summer, right?" And she responded with, "Yeah, totally, but as friends though, right?" And that's when my imagination popped and I got brought back to reality to remember all this time I interacted with her like a friend. How can I expect her to want something more if I never pursued that? To make that long story short, we never ended up actually hanging out throughout the summer. But there was a fourth girl that I was almost certain really liked me, but I wasn't really sure. You see, this fourth girl was also someone I had met in class. Originally, it started with her asking me for gum and to borrow my pencils, but eventually we formed an actual friendship with each other. She had invited me and my friends to hang out with her and her friends at her house tons of times, so I always took that as a sign of genuine interest in, if not only me, but us as a group. And of course, when you have a group of guys and a group of girls, everyone's always thinking in the back of their mind who they would pair up with. But with this girl, I wasn't really sure. Sometimes she would call me out of the blue and we would talk on the phone for like an hour about everything and anything. And then afterwards, we just wouldn't talk for a while. I kept thinking to myself, well, she's giving me mixed signals here. Does she like me or does she not like me? And instead of actually asking her out and pursuing it, I kind of waited to see how things would play out. And over the next few years of high school, this was the game that we played. Sometimes she would be 100% into talking to me all the time on the phone. She'd ask me to hang out. We'd spend time in school together. And other times, she would just ghost me. Now, keep in mind, it'd be foolish for me to put the full blame on her for sending me mixed signals. If I liked her back, then I should have asked her out, but I didn't. And even after we graduated high school, we would continue to hang out. She would do things like put her arm around mine, lean her head against my shoulder, and I always wondered, what do you want? But I never acted on it. Instead, I just waited for her to give me a sure sign as to what she wanted instead of trying to do something. Even if I'd gotten rejected, at least I would know where she stood. And from there, we went to college, kind of moved on from each other, but stayed friends in the process. And to this day, I still don't know. But I'm not 100% sure if not knowing is as bad as what happened with the fifth girl. I knew that she liked me, but I shot myself down because reasons. The fifth girl was someone that I had met on the bus when she was a freshman first entering my high school. She would always travel with her friend, and every single time me and my brother would make jokes, she would laugh. And as time went on, we developed somewhat of a friendship. She had her own group of friends, and I had my own group of friends, but every single time we saw each other on the bus, we would talk. And that happened for several years. Now, I tried to get closer to her and her friend, but they were always a little shy about it, and they would always say no every time I'd ask them to hang out, which was totally fine because that was part of our shtick. They would always get off the bus a stop ahead of me, so I'd always try to convince them to get off of the bus where I got off so we can hang out there. Time passed and I thought nothing of it. I didn't really like this girl as anything more than a friend, but I did just enjoy flirting and teasing with her and her friend from time to time. There was one incident that happened outside of school as we were walking to the bus that I think solidified those girls' potential feelings for me. I was walking alone from my school to the bus stop when I spotted the two girls also walking to the bus stop way ahead of me. All of a sudden, this weird creepy guy crossed the street, walked over to them, and put his arm around the girls, which made me feel a little weird. It didn't look like he knew them at all, but the fact that one of the girls was trying to brush his arm off and kind of distance themselves from him made me realize I had to act in that moment. I hurried on up ahead and put my arm around the other girl and said, "Hey guys, why are you walking so fast? And who's this new guy?" The guy felt kind of startled by that, so I told him, "Dude, why are you talking to my girlfriend and her friend here? What's your business?" And from there, the guy kind of slowly removed his arm and said, "All right, nice talking to you," and then walked away. So I asked the girls if they knew him, and they said, "No, but thank you so much for that." I kept walking with them to the bus stop, and the girl I put my arm around, I think, was so enamored by what happened that I think that's what solidified her liking me a little bit more. Cut to senior year, where I'm taking the bus back with one of those girls one day when she tells me, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend? We should really just hang out and just chill." And in my mind, I thought, okay. So I walked on over to her house one day to go meet up with her, and she ended up coming outside with a basketball. So the two of us walked around the neighborhood, dribbling a basketball together and eventually settling on some stoop to sit down on and hang out. It was kind of weird, and I think from that experience, she was trying to see whether or not she actually liked me, but the only thought that was running through my mind was, how am I going to make this work? I'm going off to college, she's a high school senior, I don't know if this can actually happen. I never even bothered to try to make it work. So after that random hangout, I just never asked her out on a date because I just assumed it wouldn't work. And eventually we fell out of touch and I missed out on what potentially could have been something. And perhaps my biggest life lesson there was to take chances, make mistakes, and see what happens. What do you think though? Do you think I had a chance with any of these girls? Have you ever been in a situation like that where you wanted to ask out your crush, but you just used some crazy reason not to do it? Leave your comment below and we'll talk about it. Looking back at my high school years, there's nothing that I really regret. Sure, I missed out on a bunch of opportunities and things that I could have tried that might have blown up in my face, but that's what life is all about, learning, living, and experiencing. If you want to hear about more of my middle school and high school dating fails, definitely check out the video over there on the side. Otherwise, if you want to help support the channel, you can always do so over on Patreon. Click the orange button there and it'll take you to my Patreon page where you can support the channel with $1, $3, $9 a month to help me do awesome things here for you guys. Enjoy your summer. Enjoy graduation. Have a good life. As always, love and peace.